The action takes place in 1970 on the island of Fernando Po. Young Killian spends the night with his lover Bisila, and in the morning, he says goodbye to her forever. For memory, they leave only a photo, divided in half. The action moves to 2003. The funeral of Jacobo, Killian's brother, is taking place. Back home, the deceased's daughter Clarence is talking to her cousin. Daniela decides to go into the room and look through some papers. Clarence discovers a strange letter. However, the girls are distracted from reading by a family friend. Together, the cousins care for Killian, who suffers from Alzheimer's disease. Before going to bed, a man strokes Daniela's face, and it is as if he sees her as someone else. Clarence talks to a family friend about a scrap of letter she found. According to it, Killian has been sending money to some woman and her children for years. Julia says wistfully that things would have turned out very differently if they hadn't had to flee the island. Clarence wants to know the secret history of their family. So the girl, despite Julia's protest, is going to go to Fernando Po to find out the truth. Saying goodbye, a family friend asks Clarence to find the grave of Simon, who was Killian's servant for many years, on the island. In the evening, Clarence sits in the room again and reads Killian's old diary. In 1954, he is traveling with his older brother Jacobo to Fernando Po to work on the plantations with his father. On the ship, Killian meets a doctor, Manuel, who also goes to the plantation. Anton happily welcomes his sons ashore and reminds them that this is their homeland, for they were both born on the island, only to leave it later. The plantation chief determines that Killian's servant will be one Simon. At night, the man learns words in Spanish to interact with the slaves. Hours later, Killian is awakened by his servant. Simon helps the man get dressed and warns him that everyone must line up in a few minutes. Killian is introduced to a more experienced overseer. Gregorio doesn't hesitate to use force and says that their main job is to get the men to work. At the plantation, Killian breaks away briefly to enjoy the beauty of the jungle. The man sees a pretty girl, however she soon hides from him. In the bushes, Killian discovers his boss with a pretty African-American woman. Gregorio chases the man away and advises him to stay on the trail, as he won't last an hour in the jungle. While walking through the city, Killian meets Julia, with whom they were friends as children. Her friend is in love with Jacobo and invites her and her father to dinner. Killian's brother sits at the table briefly, but then finds an excuse to leave Julia's house. Together with his brother, Jacobo goes to the city. Killian sees a lot of girls from Nigeria entertaining white guys. A man even spends the night with one of them. Killian learns that only girls from the local Bubi tribe don't sell themselves. The life of Jacobo and his brother passes then on the plantation, then in entertainment establishments. One day, the brothers go to Julia's party again. The girl quarrels with Jacobo. She knows that he has deceived her. Killian tries to comfort Julia and introduces her to a new doctor. Early in the morning, the man is awakened by Anton. His father takes Killian to the beach, saying that there are more than just pubs on the island. Anton shows his son how the hatchling turtles crawl towards the ocean. Only the females will return to this beach to lay their eggs. Anton says meaningfully that you can't forget the place where you were born. Afterwards, his father takes Killian to the village of Bubi. There, the man again notices a beautiful girl he once saw in the jungle. Reading the entries from Killian's diary, Clarence sits at the airport. The girl revisits old photographs, which again revive in her soul the events of recent days. One day, Julia decides to visit her former lover. To tease Jacobo, she lies that she has come to see the doctor. At the same time, a feast is organized at the plantation. For a while, Killian sits with his family and then goes to his room. There, the man suddenly discovers a poisonous snake. Killian neutralizes the snake and quarrels with Simon, believing that he is the one who planted it for payment. However, Simon points out another servant. Killian decides to deal with him and uses force against the servant for the first time in front of everyone. The servant tells him that Gregory ordered him to bring the snake. Killian attacks the overseer and gestures to Simon to apologize for his unjust accusations. Killian then loses consciousness, as the snakes still manage to wound and poison him. The man regains consciousness in the infirmary, where he again sees the same beauty. It is she who takes care of him. Soon, Killian recovers and again goes out to the plantations. His first season comes to an end. Killian and his father go to a wedding in the Booby tribe. Near the groom, Mosi, the man sees the very same beauty again. The man learns that her name is Basila, and she actually works at the hospital. Soon, Killian learns some terrible news. It turns out that for months, Anton has been very ill and kept quiet about it. During the night, Killian's father loses consciousness and is now lying in the infirmary. Anton is cared for by Basila, who tries to comfort her grieving son. Soon, the man does go to the other world, at parting comparing the world to a raging hurricane. At the funeral, Basila weeps and looks sympathetically at Killian. Meanwhile, Jacobo cannot stand the oppressive atmosphere and leaves. Julia runs after him and tries to comfort him. However, Jacobo suddenly feels such a rush of passion that he kisses his friend. Julia pulls away and asks him not to do it again, as she's engaged. The action returns to the present. Clarence begins to explore the archives to find at least some information about his father or uncle. Soon, the girl gets acquainted with a local booby named Eniko. The guy behaves rather aloof and wary. Eniku takes her younger brother, who is much more affable. In the evening, Luca calls Clarence to go for a walk with them. In one of Booby's neighborhoods, a girl is stopped by a strange woman who predicts that she will find what she's looking for. Clarence learns that the woman used to have a relationship with a white man, who then left her. At a bar, Eniku asks the girl to dance. The guy closes Clarence's eyes and suggests that she feel the music. The girl tries in vain to find Simon, and her search in the archives leads to nothing. One day, Eniko takes the girl to the beach where sea turtles lay eggs. There, the couple fool around and soon find themselves alone on the wet sand. Clarence decides to go to the plantation, and there he finds an aged Simon. In the car, Eniko asks why the girl mentioned she was looking for some Fernando. Clarence says that her uncle has been sending money here for years to some woman and her son, whose name is Fernando. Eniko says that children used to be baptized with Spanish and African names. The boy suddenly informs her that his brother's middle name is Fernando. With trembling hands, Clarence pulls Killian's diary out of his bag. The girl shows Eniko half of the photograph she found. After seeing the photo, the guy loses control of his car and almost gets into an accident. Eniku says that the woman in the photo is his mother. The guy brings Clarence to his home, where she meets the aged Basila. Killian's lover pulls out the second part of the photo and says she knew this day would come sooner or later. Basila says it's time for her sons to know her story. Shortly after the tragedy that happened to Anton, Killian moved away and left her for 3 years. During that time, Basila gave birth to her son Eniko by her husband. After arriving, Killian visits the Booby tribe and almost can't take his eyes off Basila. The man finds Jacobo in a bar and realizes that he's in a very bad state. Soon after, it becomes unsafe in the colonies. One day, Killian is talking to Julia when she is called from the street. Basila says that a badly injured man has come to their church. From the description, Killian guesses that it is one of their acquaintances. Secretly, the man, along with Julia, takes the wounded man through the posts. Killian takes a patient to the hospital, where Basila begins to take care of him. Passion reignites between the couple. Soon, right in the village of Booby, Killian is alone with the girl. They meet secretly in one of the wards in the hospital. Soon, Killian's sister falls ill, and he returns home for a while. Basila is attacked by 3 white men, among whom is Jacobo. The girl hides this from her tribesmen. Killian returns to the plantation and learns that his brother is ill with something that is transmitted by lovemaking. Basila tearfully lies to the boy that she was hit by a car and refuses to care for his brother. Soon, Killian does learn the truth about what happened. When Jacobo lies that he doesn't remember anything about that night, his brother attacks him right in his hospital room. Killian apologizes to Basila, but the girl says she needs time. Soon, her husband decides to take revenge on Jacobo. However, the man fatally wounds Basila's husband. Killian quarrels with his brother and demands that he immediately leave the island and start a new life. One night, Basila visits her lover. The girl says she needs a year of life away from humans, and then she can finally belong to Killian. The island and all of Guinea soon become independent. Killian is attacked to pay for his brother's deeds. However, the man is saved by Simon, who says that Basila must not be deprived of happiness. Julia and her family are about to leave the island and invite Killian with them. The man refuses, as he is still waiting for Basila. Unexpectedly, Julia says that the girl has agreed to leave with them. After many months of separation, Killian finally sees his beloved. Killian holds his son Fernando in his arms and says that this will be their secret. The couple is about to leave the island, but they are not allowed through because the children born to Mosi are Guinean and cannot leave. Killian refuses to leave his family and says goodbye to Julia. They live happily with their 2 children for a while, but Killian is still about to be deported. On memory, the couple share a photo to leave a piece of themselves with each other. Clarence goes home and sings Uncle Killian the song Basila asked him to give him. Basila herself reads a letter from the man she loves and then enters the ocean and stays there forever. Soon, Enrico and his brother Fernando arrive at the house in the snowy mountains. Daniela and Clarence meet their cousins and show them their shared home. This is the end of the film. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like, write in the comments what you think about this film, and see you in new videos.